And we're live. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the SEO Leadership Webinar. Today we have Amanda Wall. She is the founder and director of Cedarwood Digital. How are we today, Amanda?
Yeah, really good, thanks. It's Friday, so always feel good on a
Exactly.
Friday. Nice way to
Exactly.
finish the week as well. So yeah, really good. And the sun has just appeared, literally. So fingers crossed, that's a sign of things to come.
Fingers
Amazing.
crossed, exactly. Amanda, I was going through your profile, obviously, over the week, and I noticed you've spoke at Brighton twice before, and you're currently about to speak this year as well. How important is networking events for, one, the likes of Cedarwood Digital, and two, for sort of junior SEOs?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in terms of networking events, when I when I first spoke at Brighton, it's really, really, really nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie. I had done some speaking events before, and I'm a relatively confident person, so I was kind of like psyched up to do it, and I was excited to do it. But I think it's definitely tough to put yourself out there. Like, it can be hard. It can be, very, like I said, very, very nerve-wracking. But I think in terms of visibility in a space like SEO, which is so incredibly crowded, like when I came into SEO 15 years ago, it was new. There weren't a lot of people doing it. I didn't know what it was when I applied for my first job in SEO. I had no idea what SEO was. I moved from Australia where SEO wasn't even a thing. Social media was just kind of starting to take off, and sometimes my staff actually laugh at me because I said that when I was in high school I didn't know of Facebook, which probably shows how old I am. I didn't even know what it was, and fast forward 15 years, the space is really crowded. It's hard to stand out. So I think events like Brighton SEO and different networking events, they allow people to put a name to a face first and foremost. We do try and do a lot of thought leadership. We try and do a lot within the community. But I think in terms to really get to know someone and understand them, you've got to meet them. You've got to see them. And, seeing them over a screen is great, but you can't kind of beat that sort of face-to-face networking side of things. So for us as a business, that's always been really important. This year, we've kind of kicked it into overdrive because we're trying, really hard to sort of get the name out there a bit more and get a bit more visibility for our brand. Brighton's a nice way to do that as well because we can showcase expertise, and I think that's also like a nice thing to do in the industry. But for people at a junior level as well, it's a great way to learn. And a lot of my staff often sort of say, how do I learn in this industry? Like, SEO is ever changing, and it's not like, becoming a doctor where you go to university for a very, very long time and you learn like lots of different things, but then you come out of university fully qualified and kind of ready to go. With SEO, there isn't that kind of educational foundation. So there isn't that immediate opportunity to kind of learn at a degree level. I hope in the next few years, universities might take a slightly different approach to that. But from what I've seen, it's kind of still broad. We have people that come from business, from marketing, from English language degrees, whatever the case might be. And I think because they're trying to learn in this space, that going to those events, those networking events, there's loads of them, even here in Manchester, over in Sheffield, there's Sheffield DM, there's, lots out there. But just being able to get out there and network in that space is great, not only in terms of being able to meet other people in the industry and kind of speak to like-minded individuals, but also to learn from people that are doing. So, you're learning through osmosis because you're seeing what people are doing, but also you've got a lot of different opinions, and in a lot of cases, SEO is very much about opinion and interpretation as well as working with the data that we have. So in a long-winded kind of way, I feel like it's great for junior staff to get out there, but also for me, and even at the more senior level of experience, I'm still learning. And, in order to kind of be the best manager that I can be and give the support to my staff, I still need to know what's going on. And so even at Brighton SEO, I will also be going to talks, and I will be using that as an opportunity to learn as well and kind of pick up from the best in the industry and just, get a feel for what's going on. We have so much change in this space. We have AI, we have SGE, we have so many things going on that it's really, really going to fall behind without that.
Definitely.
In lieu of that, of attending events, one thing we also really appreciated about your LinkedIn profile was that you really have a strong online brand presence. How important is it for SEOs, especially junior SEOs, to, I guess, work on side projects and maybe just explore more brand presence online, especially on LinkedIn, and utilizing that to sort of knowledge share more so than, going to uni and getting a degree, because that's not an option necessarily for them right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think LinkedIn is a great platform for knowledge sharing. I think we had a discussion internally actually just a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that we've recently implemented is an all-team meeting. So all of our teams, SEO, digital PR, PPC, all come together and they kind of share interdepartmental knowledge. So digital PR can learn more about SEO, SEO can learn more about PPC, and vice versa. And one of the questions that I got asked in there actually was, where do you go online to learn? And I said, LinkedIn. It's a great platform for it because there's a lot of thought leaders on there. There's a lot of people sharing knowledge. And it's a great way also to kind of share your own views and your own opinions. And I think in terms of using it in thought leadership, particularly for junior staff, it's not just a case of sharing information. It's also getting involved in conversations. And there's a great opportunity to do that on platforms like LinkedIn to kind of really get yourself out there. I think Twitter as well, or X, sorry, as it's now called, is another great opportunity. It's something that I've just started looking at. I think the hashtags obviously allow you to kind of join in specific conversations. So if there's something very specific that you're looking for, or you want to share a specific piece of information, that's quite useful. But I find LinkedIn, of the two, because they're the two that I sort of mainly use myself to do thought leadership, I find LinkedIn to be a much better level of engagement. It allows me to communicate with people. And then it's funny, actually, because then I'll go and bump into someone and I'll go, finally putting a name to a face of someone that I've basically been following on LinkedIn for the last 2 years, but I've never actually met you. And it's actually quite a nice feeling because I feel like I know part of them just through the way they come across through their thought leadership or what I've learned already. So it's quite nice in that way as well, I think.
And then just to build off of that as well, do you have any advice for junior SEOs that are looking to maybe start side projects? And I mean, like, naturally, they are just extremely important for learning within the space. Do you have any steps for them where, if maybe guidance of how to first initiate starting a side project and the importance of it?
Yeah, so I think from side projects, there's a couple of different things you can do. One of the things that I did when I started out was I built a website so that I could practice my skills on it. It didn't go very well, not gonna lie. And I'm not very artistically talented, so the website looked terrible. And I think Google probably just looked at it and went, what has happened here? But I do think that having something on which you can practice and you can test things out is really valuable, because in the SEO space, clients aren't really a suitable testing ground. They are for certain reasons, if we're A/B testing something or we want to try something out. But when a client comes to us, they're certainly not looking to be a test bed for our new kind of SEO experiments. So I think for kind of junior staff who are looking to kind of start a side project or start something in that way, then creating a website, you can do it through Wix or WordPress. I did mine on Wix. You're going to have some limitations in terms of it's not necessarily always that fast, or you're limited in terms of what you can do. But it's definitely, if you're testing content, if you're testing different ways of user intent matching and that type of thing, it's just a really nice way to do it. So I think that's a great platform. And then in terms of other side projects for like growing their own visibility and their own thought leadership, jump on LinkedIn. I think that is still, again, like the biggest platform. Set it up, start engaging in conversations, start following people that, inspire you, start looking at what's trending, and then start maybe, reading things like Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land, and, putting a comment on Twitter about them, or, sharing something useful that you've read recently. And even then, you don't have to kind of take that massive jump into that kind of side project space. You don't have to, put yourself right the way out there straight away. You can kind of almost dip your toe in the water by, looking at content that someone's put together and adding something to it, like adding value or adding a comment to it. So they're probably two things that I would look at for junior staff.
Awesome.
And Amanda, you touched on it before, sort of share knowledge between departments. I know you were previously head of digital, so obviously like SEO, SEM, PPC. How important is it for departments to sort of be cohesive and work towards that one goal? And do you guys at Cedarwood Digital, do you have any tips to how you guys go about doing that?
Super important. I think in the past, we in particular have been guilty of being quite siloed. So, we'd have PPC here, SEO here, and sort of digital PR here. And while that's great because you've got a real good specialism in those sectors, they need to work together. They need to talk to each other, even at, you know, the most basic level from an SEO perspective. If you're trying to, you know, optimize a certain particular set of certain vertical for a client, or a certain set of products, or a certain brand range, you know, you're working together on site to optimize that, and then you're supporting that by, you know, creating great noise and great digital PR around that particular area as well. And those two have to talk to each other, because otherwise you've got a digital PR team that's doing one thing for one sort of part of the website, you've got an on-site team that's doing one thing for another part of the website, and while they're both kind of slowly getting there, they're nowhere getting the impact that they would from that cohesive effort. So it's really important that the two are working together. In terms of how you get them communicating, for us, these monthly all-team meetings have been really important. We make them like an open floor. So basically we say, you know, digital PR team, bring us your questions, ask us what you want to know about SEO. And we also encourage people within that team to learn about technical SEO. So we have power hours set aside within the week where they can take that time to actively learn about another department. So, you know, even this week, our SEO team, so our on-site team, are actually doing a digital PR project for Cedarwood. So they're doing it from start to finish, the whole way through. So they're going to do, I can't say what it is because we're launching it next week and it's a bit of a secret. I'm hyping it up. It's really not that exciting. It'll be nice when it launches. But they're doing it all the way through. So they've done the research, they've done the on-site copy, they're building the media list, they're pulling the press release together. They're going through that full life cycle of something that they wouldn't normally do every day, but they're learning the steps of that process. And the beauty of doing that is they then have a much deeper understanding of the digital PR team. And also when they're talking to clients, if clients have questions about that, they can answer them because they know what that process is. And, you know, same for our digital PR team, we encourage them to undertake aspects of technical SEO work, which again, it might not fall into their day job, but they can use these kind of power hours to learn that skill set. And it might be something, you know, as simple as starting to understand and read code. And then when they're looking at things like differentiating between redirects and no follow and do follow links, it complements their job as well. So that's the way that we do it. And I think by giving them that kind of cross-departmental understanding, it allows them to sort of improve at their own skill set, but also it's something different as well, you know, and it keeps them interested in what they're doing and up to date as well.
Is this something new that you've been doing, or has this been like the monthly meetings, or have they been around for quite some time?
So the monthly meetings are relatively new. So it's something that we sort of talked about in the middle of last year in terms of a better way of knowledge sharing. But in terms of learning and kind of doing the jobs of different departments, we've been doing that for a long time. That's kind of one of the things that I push quite hard with our staff, is that even though they have a specific role, whether it be technical SEO, whether it be digital PR, whether it be PPC, that kind of cross-departmental learning is so important. You know, even with SEO and PPC, SEO can use PPC data to really help inform and drive that strategy. And rather than our SEO team having to go to the PPC team and sort of say, can we have that data? It's also great that they know how to do that and they can work quite collaboratively with them, like they know what they're asking for. So that's something that we've had in place for a while, but the monthly meetings are working really well.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Perfect. Yeah, no, I love that. And in terms of the size of the team at the minute, Amanda, is it 12 or?
So we have 11.
11.
So close.
Perfect.
Yeah.
No, I was just looking on LinkedIn. I didn't know. I know sometimes it changes from LinkedIn.
I think we have one person in America that works for Cedarwood Digital, but I've never met them.
Oh yeah, we have a few for SEO For Hire as well.
So I don't know who they are.
Do you have sort of plans for growth over 2024? I don't know if you want to give too much away, but do you have sort of numbers in your head of where you want the team to be, and what way does that sort of shape up?
Yeah, we do. So growth, I think every business always wants growth, but for us, we've always kind of known that we don't want to be a big agency. So our sweet spot with our clients has always been that we want to be a sort of small agency, 12, maybe maximum 16 people is kind of where I see us going. I think when you get above that, you change the type of business that you are. And that's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. I think you just service a different clientele than what we have now. So a lot of the clients that we work with at the minute are independently owned and they want to work with experts working directly on the work that they're doing. So we don't have account managers. They speak directly to the people that work on the campaigns. And we focus a lot on training our staff to a level where they have a really high level of expertise. And I think that's really important to our clients. I think if we grew to kind of 20 or 50, we would have to take on a lot more clients. We would have to take on some different types of clients. That would be like a lot bigger clients. Not that we don't have big clients now, we do, but we'd have to take on a lot more of the bigger clients. And I think that the USP for some of our particularly independently owned businesses is that we've worked with them for a long time. You know, we have clients that I've worked with since we started Cedarwood. And I think we start to lose a bit of our identity. You know, we've always been a small business, and while it's great that, and we've grown every year for the last 5 years, which has been great. And we will again this year. But I think it's really important as a business to keep that core identity, and also for the staff as well. You know, a lot of people work for a small agency because they want to be at a small agency. They like the small agency culture. And again, if you grow too big, you then have to, that changes, and, you know, that can attract different staff, or it can attract more staff, but it can also cause you to lose maybe some of the staff that have bought into that small identity. So I think a little bit of growth is nice, but we very much understand where we want to get to. And that's something that we'll always keep in mind.
Definitely. And how are you guys finding the sort of the job market at the minute? Because I know we've recently branched out into digital PR recruitment as well. Obviously, it's a lot sort of a fresher industry compared to SEO, which in sort of the grand scheme of things is pretty fresh itself. Are you noticing it's sort of tougher to recruit with digital PR, or you find it easier compared to SEO, or what's your sort of thoughts on that?
So we're getting a lot of CVs at the minute, like a lot of CVs. And I think this time, sort of 12 to 18 months ago, we were hiring for PPC, and it was a nightmare. We couldn't find anyone. And then now I'm getting 18 to 20 CVs coming through. You know, I think the market has completely changed in the last 12 to 18 months. In terms of looking at digital PR versus SEO, they're really different industries. So I think in digital PR, you've got a lot of freelancers, and that's taken a lot of people out of the market. It's just a huge freelance industry. Everyone that I've ever known in digital PR now seems to be starting up freelance. There's also obviously freelancers in SEO, but I think there's just a lot kind of fewer of them. As to why that is, I think probably with SEO, it takes a lot longer to learn, and you need a much more sort of varied skill set. So you have the technical, you have the on-site, you have the off-site, you have, you know, there's a lot to it. And I think when people go to an SEO agency, they need a number of people working on a project with a lot of different skill sets. I think for smaller businesses, they can do PR with a freelancer, but obviously then a lot of businesses prefer to do it with an agency as well. And I think because of that, it makes digital PR a little bit more difficult to hire for than SEO, because I just think there's a lot more SEOs in the market, there's a lot more people doing it. But then the flip side of that is we're seeing a lot of people, or certainly the CVs we get, people coming from traditional PR into digital PR. So while digital PR is losing people through the people that are going freelance, I think it's also gaining people that are moving from a traditional PR skill base into a digital PR skill base. So that's kind of leveling it out. So I think overall, we're getting kind of a healthy number of CVs across both digital PR and SEO. I'd say probably for digital PR, though, we get less at the kind of exec level and more at the kind of manager, like head of level. Whereas with SEO, it tends to be the other way around.
Yeah, definitely. And in terms of, say, even just for SEO, what are you sort of looking for in a CV? Is there anything that really helps somebody stand out if they have that?
That's such a challenging question. It depends what we're hiring for, to be fair. So I think, you know, if we're hiring for, and to be fair, a lot of what we've hired have been graduates in the past. So we've always worked really hard to try and bring people into the market and retain them. And we've got people that have worked at Cedarwood for sort of nearly 6 years that have come in at grad level and have obviously kind of trained and upskilled as a result of that. But I guess, what are we looking for? So at kind of maybe 1 to 2 years, we're looking for a solid foundation in SEO, and understanding of what SEO is and what we're trying to achieve in terms of an actual skill base and knowledge of how to use kind of SEO tools, and an understanding of, I think with SEO, it's an understanding of what makes a website SEO friendly. So, you know, understanding what elements go into that. It doesn't have to be a massively kind of developed skill set, because that's something we can work on, but it's almost that analysis side of things that I think is really important. So understanding, you know, what Google's looking for, what the user's looking for, and how we make a website kind of follow that, as opposed to kind of a set of core skills which can be developed. It's really difficult to say, because I think with SEO being so changing, someone could come in with 10 years SEO experience, but actually 8 years of that might be a bit redundant, if it's with the way that we've changed. I mean, 10 years ago, people were buying links, and now, I mean, some people are still buying links.
I was going to say some people still are.
Yeah, but the majority of people aren't hopefully buying links anymore, but people might have been really skilled in buying links, but obviously now that's kind of redundant. So, I think it's recency and it's understanding, but more for us and for me, it's a willingness to learn and an ability to adapt. So they're the two things that I think are most important. Being open to learning and wanting to do things. Like, I'm really, really lucky, particularly in my SEO team. The staff are constantly sharing within our Teams chat, things that they've read. They're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they're looking, they're reading, they're engaging, they're taking in, they're doing webinars. They want to know, like, they're genuinely interested in SEO. And I think sometimes when people come into SEO at the start, because they don't know what it is, it can go either way. So which is absolutely fine. They come in to do digital marketing, and for some people they go, yeah, SEO, brilliant, I love it, I want to learn it. And for some people they might go, oh no, I'd prefer to do PPC, or no, actually I want to do social media, or something along those lines. So for us, it's really that passion for that particular vertical and that willingness to want to learn that counts for more than the kind of hard skill set, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Excellent.
Awesome. Moving on to the onboarding processes with Cedarwood, you guys mentioned that you do have a hybrid setup. How important is do you consider the initial steps of onboarding? And do you have any sort of, maybe 3 key points that you could mention about how your onboarding process happens? And is there anything vital that you could pinpoint in that step?
So I think in terms of onboarding, the most important thing is making someone feel comfortable in a new environment. So when people come into Cedarwood, whether it be at graduate level or whether it be at an established level, you're coming into a new workplace. And it was funny, I was saying to our operations manager, who's been with us for 6 years now, and I jokingly said to her the other day, I could have gone to high school with you. Because, when you've worked with someone for 6 years, it's like you've been to high school with someone for 6 years, and you kind of get to know them. And that also becomes like a comfort and a second home of a place that you work. So when people are coming into a new working environment, especially if they've been somewhere else for a long time, it can be almost like moving home. It can be that whole relocation process, and that can cause them to feel unsettled or nervous. And it's like moving schools. They're meeting new friends, and, they're kind of trying to work out where they fit in that workplace. They're trying to work out where they fit with the clients and how to approach things. So I think first and foremost within our onboarding process, we always try and make people feel as comfortable as possible. And that's, understanding what works best for them, with hybrids, like, do you prefer to work from home? We have some people that work from home a lot. We have some people that are actually like, no, I prefer to work in an office because I want that social aspect of it. I've just moved to Manchester. I don't know anyone. The last thing I want to do is sit in my bedroom and work from home, all the time. I want to be in an office meeting people, and I want to be out and about. So I think the first thing is like understanding that how we can provide an environment that best works for them. I think that's really important. And then the second thing is giving them the tools that they need to do their job effectively, whether that's in the office or at home, and, making sure they're set up and have the support and skills to do that. And I think thirdly, it's training and processes. So we're actually in the middle of redoing our onboarding process. I'm not doing it. One of the girls in the team's doing it. I'm really terrible with processes myself. So I've identified people in the team that are far better at that than me, to kind of build a really structured and clean process for our onboarding, to make sure that we have one thing that kind of, goes across the board. Yeah. But I think especially when someone starts, having that structured training in place to make sure that they can get up to speed really easily, and to make sure that they can kind of get to where they need to be, and that they feel supported throughout that process is very important. So we try to always have a really clear training plan for any new starters, so that when they come in, they know exactly what they're doing. We structure their first sort of week out very well, and then we allow them to be quite autonomous. But we try to kind of implement a level of structure at the start, just again to kind of help with that new school feel of going to a new workplace. I mean, it's not like a school, obviously there's loads of differences, but in terms of how it feels, I knew that's how I felt. I was at my last business before this one for nearly 7 years, and when I left on my last day, I was just like, oh, you know what I mean? You just okay, that's, I haven't moved around jobs a lot, so that's not me. Some people do, they'll switch every sort of 18 to 2 years, but I think particularly for people that are longer, or people that are coming in for their first job, and they're not even really aware of what a work environment is because they've never maybe been in one before, those things are really important.
Definitely.
Awesome.
And Amanda, I've spoke to quite a few people, maybe around the sort of the senior SEO exec level, who are on paper ready to step up into management. Do you have any sort of advice for what they can sort of incorporate into their first, say, 90 days of a new management position?
So the first thing I would say, and I say this to my staff all the time, is just don't rush. Don't rush into management. You're literally going to be working for the next 45 or 50 years, who knows? And I think social media pressures people to get to management really, really quickly. And everyone wants to be a manager, and then they get there and they're sort of a bit like, maybe don't realize what it's entailed, or it hasn't been explained to them, or they don't really understand it. So I think even before you do your 90-day plan, I would say make sure that you're ready to do what managers do. And it can look really appealing to have a higher salary and to have that sort of manager title, but what comes with it is that additional responsibility. Managing people is really important because you play such an important role in their development, especially with graduates, that you can have an important role in where they go in their career. So I think that's something that you don't want to take lightly. And I know that wasn't exactly the question you asked, but I think firstly, it's about that, just kind of being ready for it. But in terms of the first 90 days, as a manager, if you're taking a step up from executive, I would say learn as much as you can from the environment around you. Learn about the staff that you're going to be managing, understand their strengths and weaknesses, understand how they work best more than anything else, and make sure that you have a way to develop them. Work out what you need from your team and also the structure around that team. So work out where your skill gaps are and how you're going to kind of build on them, and what kind of plan you're going to have in place to fix that. And just use a spreadsheet as well. Like I spreadsheet everything. So if I try and remember things in my head, I just get so overwhelmed that I have to put everything down on a spreadsheet. And they don't even make sense half the time. My operations manager says all the time, what is this? And I was like, oh, it makes sense to me. Like, but I don't think it makes sense to anyone else. But what I would say is don't get overwhelmed. So it can be overwhelming moving into management for the first time, and you've got, managing people, managing clients, managing a workload, and then, learning to lead people and develop them and their emotional intelligence and the kind of personal side of it as well. So I would just say take your time, structure it really, really well, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So don't be afraid to ask someone to mentor you, or, even within that, the kind of interview when you're going for that management role, if it is your first one, be sure to kind of ask, what's available? Is there someone here that can mentor me and help me? Admittedly, this is my first management role, so I may need support in that particular side of things as well. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I think being open and transparent about it will help you to be the best manager, as well as giving the best to your team.
Definitely couldn't agree more. And you spoke just before that about obviously delegating certain tasks, like you're not very good with the processes side of things. How important is being able to delegate tasks and not sort of taking on too much of a workload within the team?
Super important. And I think identifying what those tasks are is a big part of being a manager as well. And, being able to hold your hand up and say, look, this actually isn't my strength. So I know that someone else is better suited to that. And I think being able to identify the people that are best suited to doing that within your organization plays a big role in the success of that. I know that delegation, I know that processes is just not I don't have the patience for it. I don't have the structure for it, but there are people within my team who are phenomenal at doing that. And, being able to delegate and give that, it frees up my time. It also means that I'm not spending time doing something that isn't adding value. And at the end of the day, what I want my whole team to be doing is adding value. And if there's someone that could do something better than I can, they're the best person for the job.
Definitely. And another question, just obviously going back to when you were a junior SEO, was there particular characteristics of a manager that worked best on you? And have you sort of transferred that into the team at Cedarwood now?
So I was incredibly fortunate in my first role. I had a phenomenal manager who was just really, really, really great. And I'm really thankful to him, to be honest. I spoke to him for ages afterwards, and he really helped and mentored me when I started Cedarwood, and I really appreciated that. I think the characteristics that I thought from him, or particularly what I try and pass on to my staff, is just, you know, being able to support them, but not offering too much support. So encouraging independent learning, but being there when they need me. So if someone comes to me and asks a question, I will always say to them, have you tried to find the answer? Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that in a bad way, as in like, oh, I don't have time for this, or I can't be bothered. It's more of like, have you tried to self-serve the answer? Have you researched? Have you looked? Because often that research process can be a learning process for them as well. Mm-hmm. And if they have, then I can obviously talk through that with them, and we can, you know, see if there's other answers as well. And if they haven't, then I'm always happy to help. But I think one of the things that I was taught was that independent style of learning and researching and reading and understanding is plays such an important role in that was something that I always try and, you know, pass on to my staff. And the second thing is I'll always try and get the best out of my staff without pushing them too far. So I know my staff quite well, and I know each of their kind of strengths and weaknesses, and I also know how I can get the most out of them. But I've learnt that through talking to them. So, you know, openly sort of saying to them, you know, how do you work best? What's my best method of communicating with you? You know, how is this most effective? And by understanding that and taking the time to actually step back and understanding what works best for them, and how, because each of my staff are different and each of them react differently. You know, one of them might want to be told in one way, and one of them might want to be told something in a different way. So I think the other skill that I probably learned very much from him was that you have to adapt. You have to be really adaptable to different personalities, to different ways of learning, to different skill sets. And if you are adaptable, then you will get the best out of people. And if you aren't adaptable and you try to just impose your way across everyone, then that's when you're not going to kind of get the best out of people. So I think that's probably another thing that I learned that was really important.
Excellent. Perfect. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Hit the half an hour mark. I know you're speaking on quite a few more sort of webinars and talks at the minute before Brighton. Is there anyone you want to shout out, Amanda, or anything you would like to sort of announce?
I mean, I am speaking at Brighton, so please come down and see me. That's very exciting. I'm also speaking at Salford SEO on the 27th of this month. It's going to be great. It's at the King's Arms pub in Salford. There's food. So, you know,
consider me there.
Always a great food is always a great pull. My staff will know food is the key to my heart. And so, yeah, come down. I'm talking about using basically building digital PR links for low cost, high return campaigns. Awesome. That's what it is. Yeah, we'll get there. So yeah, that's also something that's going on as well. Or yeah, just give me a follow on LinkedIn. I'm always talking about something or other.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I'll be there for Brighton anyway. So
brilliant.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I loved all your questions and I loved the answers. So yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out for you on your LinkedIn, and we will post this up onto YouTube and Spotify, and also in our newsletter as well. So it'll be out everywhere. But yeah, outside of that, have a lovely Friday and a great week further, and we'll chat soon.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers, Amanda.
Bye.